So then guys, it's been 14 days since I've had the iPhone Air, 2 full weeks of daily use, and the big question now is, should I keep it or should I return it? Apple says this is the phone ever. Apple says this is the thinnest iPhone ever, but after living with it, is that enough to actually keep it? Well, let's find out. Now, to begin with, let's talk about the design. And to be honest, I'm going to say this is the major part of this phone. It's how thin this phone is. And to be deadly honest, it is still mind-boggling. It is 5.6 millimeters thick and only weighs 165 grams. It feels unbelievably light compared to, say, a Pro or a Pro Max phone. Just holding it right here, or just, I don't know, slip it into your pocket just like that, it's just so effortless. It's just so easy to do. And also, you know, it being a super thin phone with this titanium polished frame, it does look absolutely stunning. But after 2 weeks, I can also tell you some of the trade-offs that come off with this. That beautiful titanium frame, if you don't put a case on your phone, well, guess what? You will get loads of fingerprints on it. And also, if you didn't put this in the case, I'm expecting this to get scratches and things like this. And in fact, actually, take a look right here. We've even seen that this phone is subject to getting scratches, but not too much on the frame, but more, to be honest, on the back, and also if you have a darker color of the iPhone Air. I'm quite lucky, I haven't got any on my phone yet over the last 2 weeks, but it's something I am worrying about, especially that when I do come to trade this in eventually, that obviously one scratch could knock down the value of this really, really quickly. So yeah, it looks amazing, but you need to protect it from day one. Now, moving on to the display of this phone, at 6.5 inches, it is sharp, vibrant, and it has Pro Motion. So that 120 hertz makes everything super smooth. It's also adaptive as well, so it can even go right down to 1 hertz. And outdoors, the anti-reflective coating does help out to a degree. It's bright and readable even in sunlight. But compared to, say, the Pro, even the regular iPhone 17, the difference isn't that dramatic. In fact, essentially, all the iPhone 17 models this year have the exact same screen as this iPhone Air. But one thing that does look really awesome on the screen, and that is iOS 26. The Air feels fast and fluid. Liquid glass looks like it's just been built for this phone. The animations, the customizable, options that you can do with widgets and things like this is just amazing. And then on top of this as well, for connectivity, Wi-Fi 7 and USB-C transfers, they're all there and work pretty smooth. In fact, what I would say is software is not an issue on this phone. The problem is that you can get that exact same experience on cheaper iPhones too. So even say the iPhone 16e, you can get that exact same experience and it feels just as battery smooth, but yet you can sometimes even pick it up, the 16e, at about half the price of this Air. Now, one area where I do feel the Air feels particularly limited is its single camera on the back here. And I think this is a thing what you've got to realize what this camera is for. Don't get me wrong, it's great to take photos in daylight, but flexibility is where it falls short. At 1x and even 2x images, they look fine. But by the time you push them to 10x zoom, as you can see right here, detail really drops off. And then video zoom is very similar. Check this out. At 1x and 2x, it looks quite good, but the second that I push it right up to, say, the maximum 6x video zoom, yeah, the quality just looks horrible. And yeah, it's just not worth going, I would say, beyond, say, 3x zoom. If you're used to also having a telephoto option on a Pro, then the difference is going to be super obvious. Now, obviously, what I'm going to say here, that if you've come along from, say, an iPhone 14 Pro and then came to the iPhone Air, well, maybe it won't be too much of a difference there, because obviously, we had a 3x telephoto zoom, and I would even say that it's very, very similar in what you're getting there. But obviously, that's the point. You want a new phone with a better experience here, and it is lacking that. Now, one feature I do also like with this phone is the dual camera mode, which lets you record both the front and rear cameras at the same time. It's a nice to have, especially if you want to do vlogs or capture reactions. The only one that will downer with that is obviously it doesn't save both of those cameras as separate files. So everything is baked into one file, so you can't actually separate out say, the selfie camera from, say, the rear camera footage. So overall, I would say the cameras are great, but what I'd also be mindful here is that you are not going to get that pro kind of camera experience. Think of these cameras as your sort of day-to-day camera experience. So if you are going out just to take a family photo, or if you're just going out to take a picture of something, yeah, it's going to be perfect for that. But anything more than that, then no, it won't be able to achieve that. Now, something else what this phone also has is the A19 Pro, and this makes the Air super fast. Apps open instantly, multitasking is smooth, and Geekbench and Antutu benchmarks are strong. Even though I've been testing it out for the 2 weeks, it has been always very consistent in what kind of scores I am getting here. To me, with the A19 Pro in this phone, it's all to do with the thermals. That's where you're going to see the difference. Because it's so thin, and because obviously all the chips and everything like that live up in the camera plateau, the Air warms up quite quickly under stress compared to a Pro or a Pro Max. And it also just kind of makes me wonder why an A19 Pro is actually even in this phone. If you can't push it out too much because it will start to overheat and throttle, why put an A19 Pro inside of this phone? You should have just put, say, the A19 normal and maybe reduce down the price by $100. That would have been a far better option, because the A19 is still a great chip like we've got in the normal iPhone 17. But then the other thing that you guys are probably also wondering about as a concern, and that is to do with battery life. And I'm going to say this, the battery life inside this phone has been fine. It's not great. Lighter days, just browsing, messaging, social media, you can easily use this phone. So, if you are a person who just loves watching videos on your phone, yeah, this is going to last you a long time. However, the days when you decide to do, say, full out sort of 3D AAA gaming, and also decide to record something for more than, say, 15 minutes at a time, a couple of times a day, you're going to notice that your battery is draining down. But if you do those other scenarios, like I said, those lighter kind of tasks, the battery will definitely last you the full day. And I've even witnessed this myself. I'm getting to the end of a normal day with using it all day without doing any kind of heavy sort of tasks, and I still have, say, about 30% battery still left in it by the time it comes to the evening. And then the main reason why this is happening is because we've got that new C1X modem inside this, and also that N1 networking chip. And it's definitely helping out here with efficiencies, but you can tell it is only designed for those sort of lighter tasks. Anything that is going to be more hardcore out there, then yeah, that's when the battery starts to drain down. The other note to throw in there is obviously the iPhone 17 regular or normal actually lasts longer than this phone. But then it's not all doom and gloom. What you've got to remember is that the battery inside of this phone can even outpace, say, the normal iPhone 16, or even the normal iPhone 16 Pro, or even, say, the likes of, say, an iPhone 15 Pro Max. The battery is actually better in this than those phones, and they only came out in the last year or 2 years ago, and you've just got to remember that. To me, like I said, I don't think battery is the big concern here, as long as you match it up to the right user. But then what about charging? Well, charging is okay. That's what I'm going to say there. You could get to about 50% charge in about 30 minutes by using USB-C, and also you do have MagSafe as well. And both that USB-C and MagSafe can do that same amount of speed. It can get up to 50% in 30 minutes using the 20-watt charger, or up to 20 watts. So at least that is quite good. But what I would say about this phone as a conclusion, and also the first attempt from Apple for a super thin phone, I think it's one of the best out there that Apple have managed to achieve. Do you remember the first generation iPhone? Do you remember the first generation iPad, that ever came out? And how bad they were? Well, they weren't bad, but they weren't the best effort. Do you remember the second generation of the iPhone and the second generation of the iPad? It was far better. And if Apple get this right, I think that the iPhone Air 2, when that comes out in a year or so from now, I think it's going to be even better than this phone. So I think it is a watch this space. Now, at the same time as well, I'm not going to say deny this phone and do not buy it. But what I'm going to say is it's literally big selling point is that it is super thin. And yeah, I would say this, that I'm probably going to say that novelty is going to actually wear out after a few months, and maybe you might begin to think that maybe I should have just got myself the normal iPhone 17 because it would have given me a slightly better battery life, and it also would have given me, say, a different camera on the back. I could have got, say, that ultra wide camera, and then also at the same time it would have saved me $200 to buy that over this iPhone Air. So from that point of view, this is where I think this phone is struggling. And like I also pointed out earlier, is that it's got the A19 Pro. And that to me is also something that bothers me. It doesn't really need to have that, especially like USB port at the bottom is only USB 2.0 speeds. You don't need the A19 Pro for that. Apple should have put the A19 in this, and we could have probably got better battery life with having that chip in this phone, and it still would have been more than enough to actually work this phone. And yeah, I probably would have bought it for, say, $100 less at $899 US, and I think this would have sold even better. But lessons learned. Maybe, like I said, the iPhone Air 2, the next generation, Apple might do that. They may put, say, the A sort of 20 normal inside of it, and then also reduce down the price by $100. But we'll just have to wait and see. But like I said, great attempt from Apple on the first run. I would say this, if you are coming from a Pro phone, and if you love all those Pro features like telephoto and things like this, and also you can't run to a charger every single day after you played some AAA gaming, then obviously I would say ignore the Air. But for everybody else there who just watches videos, browses the internet, does shopping, hooks up with their friends, does FaceTime calls, you name it, just takes normal kind of photos, nothing too professional, this phone is still a good bet to get. But just do remember that there is another option of the regular iPhone 17 for $200 less too. And on that note, that concludes my 14-day review with the iPhone Air. What do you think of this phone? Do you think it's worth the money? Do you think it should have, say, an A19 chip in it and be $100 less? Well, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And with that as well, guys, it's time to wrap up this video too. So if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button. As always, when you need the latest Apple news, reviews, and comparisons, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Until next time, guys, I'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.